Thanks, Simon. Thanks for the introduction. Good evening, everybody. What I will say first is, if you don't understand my accent, please do raise your hand or say, because some people find my accent a little bit difficult to follow. I have a North East Wales, Cheshire, Scouse hybrid accent, and sometimes the Scouse comes through more than anything else. But hopefully it won't be a problem. So what I thought I'd talk about is the Wood Wight project has been going for this. We're now coming into our third and final year. So I'll give a little bit of background about the project, a little bit of background about the Wood Wight butterfly itself, and then we'll talk about what we've been doing and year of the project and how people can get involved and help. So as I say, we'll talk about the project. We'll talk a little bit about the ecology and the habitat of the Wood Wight butterfly, habitat management, which is very much tied up with the conservation of the butterfly, what we've achieved and where we are going forward. And then, as Simon said, we'll have a little bit of time at the end for questions and answers. So in terms of the project is lottery funded mainly. It's a 3-year project, and as part of the project proposal to the lottery, we had a number of goals or targets we had to say we would meet over the 3 years. And the main one is being, we have to create at least 3 kilometres or 3,000 metres of wildflower meadow, either via seeding or planting plug plants, however that comes about, and we'll talk about that in a little bit later. The main outcome is to increase the distribution and the abundance of the Wood Wight within the Chiddingfold project area. And then 2 other sort of outcomes is working with local communities, with volunteers and with local landowners to get their buy-in into the project and to carry out some work on the land. And then training. Training is one of the main outcomes we've put to the lottery. That is training in conservation, training in butterfly surveying and butterfly ID, things like seed collection with volunteers and training the volunteers on how to collect and sow the seeds, and ensuring that local landowners are looking at the correct management for the Wood Wight and leaving a legacy for the future for the next 10 years or so after the project finishes. So in terms of the Wood Wight itself, it's quite a scarce butterfly. Its population has declined dramatically since the 1970s. It's one of our high priority butterflies. It's listed under the NERC Act, under Section 41, and it's a priority BAP species in the UK. In terms of main populations, there's the one in Surrey, which is the one I work on. There's one in Northamptonshire, which is another quite large population of Wood Wights. And then we have smaller populations. There's one over towards Somerset, and there's one in Devon on the Devon-Cornwall border area as well. But it's very much restricted to from Northamptonshire downwards to the south of the UK. In the southeast, Chiddingfold complex has about 20 to 23% of the UK population of Wood Wight butterflies. So this is why the project's focusing on this area at the moment. So Chiddingfold is in Surrey, and on the map it's represented by these groups of red dots down here. And this population of Wood Wight up here is on the Berkshire, Northamptonshire border going into the Midlands. But I'm very much focused on this little population down here in Chiddingfold at the moment. So our project area, we're constrained by another number of boundaries and the size of the area that we're looking at the moment. So we go from Chiddingfold, which is in the north of the area, and Chiddingfold Forest Complex, which is the main stronghold of the Wood Wights in Surrey/Sussex. And then we go over towards a place called Alfold on the east, and just below Hazelmere on the western border. As far south as a little village called North Chapel. But so the main area we focus on and the main population is in this area here at the moment. So this is the Chiddingfold Forest Complex. And we've been doing some data crunching over the last few weeks just before Christmas, looking at the abundance and the count for the Wood Wights in that area. And surprisingly, I mean, in terms of abundance, the number of tetrads that we're seeing the wood white in now is increasing dramatically within the project area. So very much now we're seeing wood whites over to the west in Greyswood. We've got quite a large population in Stroudwood, which is in this area. We've got records over towards a place called Lockswood in the east now, the other side of Plastow. That came in just before Christmas, that wood whites have been found there. We know we've got wood whites in the south of the area as well. So we're now seeing quite a good spread away from the Chillingfold complex into other areas within the project area. There's still gaps in the map. We're still not quite sure where the wood white has and hasn't been seen in some of these areas. And we'll come on to that in terms of volunteers and people's input a little bit later. But this is very much our project area. Wood white counts, we've been looking at the data, and I mean, you can see in the little chart, it seems to be, I mean, it's gone down again this last year, but we think that's to do with reasons such as COVID has prevented people coming out to do the transect walking. The weather's been really difficult, so to speak, in the southeast. We've had long periods of hot and dry weather, followed by some quite cold and wet periods, especially towards the second brood time. So the numbers of the second brood are lower than the first brood in 2021. But again, I think COVID had a big impact on the data that's coming in. So we're just re-looking at the data. And I know some of our recorders are just sending their data in as well. So it'll be another couple of months till we get a better picture of how this is actually happening within the project area. But we've looked at the wood white data for the other regions of the UK as well, and it seems to follow a very similar pattern in terms of counts. You get an increase in counts, and then you get a quite large drop off for 6 or 7 years, and then the population picks up again. You get another drop off, and then we're starting to see something in the last 3 or 4 years. But again, like I said, that's possibly the data, and COVID isn't stacking up very well at the moment, so we're going to revisit that. But as I said, the nice thing is the abundance of the wood white in the project area is growing, and it's spreading out from the Chillingfold complex, which was part of the original project's aim, is to get it out of that central woodland and get it out into the rest of the area with landowners' help. And the project actually fits into some of the work that Butterfly Conservation is doing within the organisation itself, where it's looking at its priorities in terms of landscapes. In the wheeled area, we've got a number of butterflies and moths that we're actually looking at in terms of butterfly conservation. And we always say to people that, yes, my focus is on the wood white, but it's not just about the wood white, it's about the other moths and butterflies in the project area, as well as pollinators in general and invertebrates in general. So when we're working with landowners, we part of the education is to educate them about pollinators, what's good for pollinators, why pollinators are in decline, and build that into the wood white project as well. And I think this is one of the reasons we're getting some really good buy-ins from some large estate owners now in this part of Surrey. We'll talk about that again in a bit. So just a little bit about the wood white, if you're not sure, if you've not come across it before. It's an interesting butterfly. It's obviously, I'll say it's my favourite butterfly, but I'm a little bit biased because of the project I'm involved in. And it's one of these, I mean, Bill will probably back me up on this, but it's one of these butterflies that look like it can't be bothered to fly. It's not like your comma or your peacock or your red admiral that's very, very colourful, very in your face, very easy for people to identify. This flies at very low to the ground. It looks like it can't be bothered flying. It puts a lot of effort in to move small distances, but it will travel up to 2 kilometres. So where we get wood white sightings, we're now looking at 2 kilometres around these areas to see if there are other wood whites in that 2 kilometre. So they will move up to 2 kilometres, which is quite nice, but they do look like they can't be bothered to fly to a certain extent. The other thing is, oops, come back a minute, is, when the adults, the 2 broods are May, June, and then into August for the second brood into September. I think we actually saw some in October this year as well, but not many count in October. And then the chrysalis you see potentially all year round. Chrysalis is very, very hard to see because of one, its coloration, and two, it tends to form chrysalises not on the food plant. So it will go on to things like Carex pendula, onto roses, onto taller vegetation to pupate, and doesn't pupate on the food plant. And I've not seen a chrysalis yet this year or last year. So they are really difficult to spot, and it's something we're going to be talking to our volunteers about and do some training over the next 12 months of the project, is the wood white ecology and the food plant biology as well. The actual wood white project, the reason it declined was change in land use, poor management, and that had a massive impact on it on the 70s. And the actual management of the habitat is really crucial to the survival of the wood white. It requires some very specific conditions and specific food plants. It loves large, wide, sheltered, open woodland rides, a little bit of shade on the edges, and it needs its food plant. And its food plants are some of the, we'll talk about in a minute. Within the Chiddingfold area, the large proportion of the population is on sites managed by Forestry England, and we have a really good relationship with Forestry England at the moment. They manage the woodland rides based on our advice, and they come to us and ask us when they're developing other woodlands within the area, how do we manage it for the wood whites and other butterflies? And our volunteers do work in the woodland on behalf of butterfly conservation, but it also helps. And on the back of that, Forestry England will then go and spray the bracken for us, rather than us get contractors in and pay for contractors to come and do the bracken control. So we have the relationship with Forestry England is really, really crucial to this project. And without Forestry England and their permission to do the work we're doing, we'd see a greater decline within the wood whites within the Chiddingfold and Surrey area. And the management is rotational management is crucial to the survival of the wood white butterfly. It lays its eggs on things like tufted vetch, greater bird's-foot trefoil, but it needs to be taller vegetation. It doesn't lay it on the very low new growth. So it waits till the vetches get quite tall, and it tends to lay its eggs at the very tips of the young shoots. And then the caterpillar works its way down on the food plant until it then goes and pupates. So the rotational management is crucial, as I said. We tend to say a 3 to 4 year rotational management regime when you're cutting the rides or the glades, or if it's a private landowner on the meadow areas. So leave part of your meadow uncut and then go and cut the other areas and then come back to that on your rotational basis. This allows the vetches to grow to that height that the female can then come and lay the egg on. And again, the food plants tied up with the survival of the wood white is very picky about what it lays its eggs on. And the 5 main ones are the bird's foot trefoils, bitter vetch, and meadow vetchling. So you can have a really nice, open, wide, sunny ride within the woodland. But if it hasn't got any of these 5 food plants, your wood white population is going to struggle to remain there or get a hold. So when we're doing our work with the Forestry Commission, we very much look at the rides, what the plants are in these rides, and then work with the Forestry Commission on this rotational management to allow some of these to grow to be tall, so the wood white female can come and lay its eggs on these. So food plants crucial when we're talking to landowners outside of the woodland and the Forestry England sites. Part of the role is to donate or help landowners cultivate meadows that contain these food plants in. So we've spent a lot of time since August this year planting tufted vetch, bird's-foot trefoil, the other food plants with private landowners in the Chiddingfold, Dunsfold areas. We've given seeds out to landowners who are growing both the plants from seed and also sowing wildflower meadows from the seed. And we're also now looking to work with schools from the spring onwards, donating plants and seed to schools and going into school grounds and cultivating some of these with predominantly primary school kids within that area as well. So the food plant's essential. The other thing the wood white needs is a continuous nectar source throughout its adult life. And again, things like early season nectar from a Juga or bugle is one of the critical plants we find. Woodwhites absolutely love it. And then you get things like herb roberts, the speedwells, ragged robin in damper areas. Probably one of the best ones is devil's bit scabious, and we've had a really good year in the southeast for devil's bit scabious this year. It's one of the probably I've never seen so much flowering as I have in the spring, in the autumn this year, in terms of in Surrey. So when we're giving out plants and planting with landowners, not only do we talk about the larval food plants, but we also give out plug plants and seeds containing these nectar sources for the woodwhite. In terms of the threats to the woodwhite, so this is mainly based on the work we've been doing in Forestry England sites in Surrey, is it likes a little bit of shade on the edges, but too much shade is no good, both for the food plant and for the butterfly itself. One of the issues we do have is rank vegetation coming through. So things like the carex pendula, bracken has been my biggest headache last year, in terms of its control and its management. When our volunteers go into a woodland area, we clear a nice glade. It's nice and short. We start managing it on our rotational basis, the food plants to grow. You come back 12 months later and a lot of it becomes shaded out by bracken again. Again, last year, bracken's grown incredibly quickly in the southeast, possibly because of the weather we've had all year round, those alternating hot and dry and wetter periods in spring, summer and autumn in 2021. And again, it's about not cutting it all down in one go. So we're back to our rotational management. So in an ideal world, if you've got your nice wide ride that goes through the woodland, you'd really want to cut it in, say, 30 to 50 meter stretches, then leave 100 meters or 150 meters and cut another 30 to 50 meters. However, it's not an ideal world all the time. So what we then say is, well, if you're going to cut one ride, then cut one side and leave it, and then let the other side grow, and then do your rotational management based on that. But without that rotational management, you don't get the growth of the larval food plant, and without the growth of the larval food, it starts to decline quite quickly. So it's going back to this proper management for the woodwhite and this habitat is its main driving force to make these populations survive and expand within these areas. With private landowners, we're probably working or have done work with over 35 private landowners within the Chillingfold, Dunsfold, Plastow area up till Christmas. And it's really nice because the people are really engaged with this project in that area. One of the main driving forces is we have quite a good volunteer promoter for butterfly conservation that lives in Chillingfold, a lady called Phil Darnley. And she's very proactive about, one, the woodwhite, and two, the Chillingfold forest complex, because it's on her doorstep. And she also runs a wildflower project in Chillingfold itself, and she's been planting larval food plants and nectar plants throughout Chillingfold village. And we now have a population of woodwhites within the church yard in Chillingfold itself now. So the managers of the church have agreed to manage the church graveyard on a rotational basis, on a 3 to 4 year basis, as we've discussed before. It's caused a few issues because one of the issues with wildflower management, and it never changes, as people think it looks scruffy come to the autumn and they want it cut down straight away before the plants are set seed. And we've had that issue in a few places, but the church wardens have taken this on board now, and they are now actively leaving areas uncut within the churchyard to see if this woodwhite population develops there. And it's nice to see, because it's not actually in the woodland, it's actually in the church grounds as well. And we do work with the National Trust, the Wildlife Trusts. We're doing some work with a group called Young Wilders or Rewilders, who are doing some rewilding work in the Surrey area. And they've got access to a farm that's got woodwhites on it. So we're just in discussions with them about some management plans as well. We're also looking at developing relationships with other stakeholders within the area. So there's an organisation called Green Space, which gets all the local landowners together, talks about habitat management, woodland management, and it has grant money that it can give to landowners to do conservation work, such as sow a wildflower meadow, manage a wildflower meadow, fencing, hedge laying, woodland management as well. And that's a relationship that's just started in the last couple of months that we'll be developing over the next 12 months by the end of the project. And then we got some larger estate owners coming on board within that area on the map of the project area, which is really nice because some of these guys own a lot of land within that part of Surrey. And up until a few years ago, they haven't really thought, but some of them are really switched onto it, which is really nice to see. So we've got some exciting areas to go and develop next year as part of the project. And again, it's not just, I said before, it's not just about the wood white, but we're looking for other species to get some benefit out of this. So you got things like the grizzled and dingy skippers, other butterflies within the area. We're tying this into the big butterfly count. So one of our objectives for 2022 is to promote the big butterfly count as well as through the wood white project and get areas that haven't engaged before engaged with the big butterfly count. But then things like doing some work with ARC on the reptiles and amphibian side. And my predecessor has gone to work for ARC now, which is really nice. And also it's about the plants as well. So we have some really uncommon plants within the project area. So Chiddingfold Forest, there's an area called Tugley Forest, and there's Dyer's Greenwood within the forest. A lot of goldenrod within that forest environment as well. So it's all about trying to tie all of this together. Yes, with a wood white focus, but bringing other aspects of conservation and biodiversity into the project now and tying that into landowners. So that's just a very, very brief overview of what we've done in the last two years. Last year, the project got hit really badly by COVID. We couldn't go out on site. A lot of the planned talks and walks and training events got put on hold. So we've got an awful lot to do between now and the project is supposed to end in September 2022. But because of COVID, we're going to extend, it looks like we're going to extend it to December 2022 now. So we've got a full 12 months of this year. COVID hopefully will disappear to a certain extent, that we can carry on and do the work and run the talks. And then in December 22, that is when the funding runs out at the moment for the project. So to date, we've roughly put about 3,000 plug plants into the project area with local landowners, with volunteers. We've done a little bit of work with schools, but we'll do some more this year with that as well. And we've done over 2,000 square meters of seeding and plug planting within that area. I think when I looked at the data earlier, I think we're about 2,700 meters of planting or seeding so far. So we should exceed our 3,000 meters target by the end of the project, which is going to be really nice as well. We've done quite a lot of habitat management days on forestry England sites and private landowners. I think my predecessor did something like 35, 36 practical days in the first part of the project. We've quite a few projects coming up now. We've got a practical day next Friday, the 21st, in an area just outside Chiddingfold, and we're going to be looking at working on a private landowner's estate, a woodland that is sandwiched in between woodland we know where the wood white is. So we're going to look at helping the landowner develop that woodland, open it up, put some rides in, remove some of the bramble, and hopefully by the end of the year we might see some wood whites on that site once we've done some of the work there as well. Like I say, we've got new landowners engaging with the project. We've got an estate owner that owns quite a lot of land in Surrey to south of Chiddingfold that has given us permission to go into some of his woodlands and do some work. And we will be doing that with the Sussex Wildlife Trust and the AONB people. So we're looking at doing some joint projects to get our volunteers involved with other organisations in the area. And that's part of the lottery funding, is to work with other conservation bodies and do that outreach work. Volunteer involvement, we have quite a strong volunteer group within Chiddingfold itself. So that's largely driven by Phil. One of the issues we do have is some of the outlying areas we are a bit thin on the ground with volunteers, and this is something we really need to push within the next couple of months. So areas like Dunsfold, Plastow, Ifold, Ebeno especially, which is at the south of the area, we struggle to get people to come out and do volunteer days. So one of the things we're going to do this year is we're going to go run conservation taster days. So we're going to look at taking one of our practical days out for midweek, put it in on a Saturday or a Sunday, and try and encourage people that can't come out in the week to come and volunteer, see what we do. They don't have to stay all day, just come for an hour, see what we do as an organisation, see how the other volunteers work with butterfly conservation, have a cup of tea and a biscuit, have a chat, and then hopefully they might come back and become a proper volunteer on some of the other projects. We're also going to go and talk to Merriswood College, just outside Guildford, to talk to their countryside management students about the project and to try and get these guys involved, because as part of their countryside management courses, they need to be doing some work off the college campus, and we can provide the land and the area for the students to come and do practical conservation management. And one of the nice things about that relationship is I used to be head of conservation at Merriswood College. So we have as BC, we have a link into the college that we're going to sort of play on this year quite a bit. And providing habitat management. So we're in the process of writing some A4 habitat management briefing notes for private landowners, for schools, for general garden landowners as well. Hopefully they'll be done in the next 4 weeks, so we can get them out in time for spring, for sowing season, planting season, and that should cover planting and management of a wildflower meadow. And that's a target that we need to be hitting at the moment, is to do this outreach and engagement with local community more within the area. And so because of COVID last year, we had lots of things we were going to do, which we didn't do. So we have to, as part of the funding, put on at least 2 butterfly walks and talks, public and other interested individuals. And as part of that, one of the walks and talks needs to be about butterfly recording, transect surveying at a high level as well. So hopefully we'll be starting that or putting those together in the next few weeks, ready for spring at the start of the surveying season. We also have to do some training on wildflower seed collection and growing and management. We've just signed an agreement with Kew and the Millennium Seed Bank, and they will be providing 1 or 2 days training in the summer on seed collection and seed management of wildflowers. And also they're going to be growing, I think it's in the region of 1,500 local provenance nectar and food plants for us this year as well. So that's quite an exciting project. We'll be able to take our volunteers to the Millennium Seed Bank, get them some training, and hopefully that'll stay with the project after we leave. The other one is habitat management workshop. So again, we're going to talk to Bumblebee Conservation Trust and Bug Life about doing a couple of joint events within the area. One will be a sort of general walk and talk, how to identify the different types of bees within our sites for the public. And then another one will be about habitat management and best practice for largely estate owners and also gardeners at the end of the day. School engagement is top of our priority at the moment, so we need to go into schools and start getting the kids involved with the project. And on the back of that, we're making 3 little videos. They're about a minute long each, that will be coming out by the end of next year. So one is about the woodwhite itself, the butterfly. One is about the volunteers and what it means to be a volunteer for butterfly conservation and becoming involved with butterflies and conservation within the area. And then the third one is going to be about habitat management and the wood white and butterflies. And these films are being put together by Dr. Dan Donaher, who's quite well known within the butterfly conservation world. He's made quite a lot of videos as well, and he's a really good filmmaker. So they should be, I think August is the last one we're filming this year, and then they'll be available, I think, at the end of the year as part of the project when it finishes. We're doing a lot of work with private gardeners at the moment within the area as well. So this is something, again, we're pushing this year, is it doesn't matter how big your piece of land is you own, you can do something for the butterflies, for wood white, and for pollinators in general. So we're going in, we're working with a garden designer in Plasto, who's talking to her clients at the moment, talking to her contacts, and we're going to do a lot more work with the general public on wildlife flower gardening in the next 2-3 months as well. And again, it's all about outreach. The project is engaging with as many people as we can, getting people to help engage with the project, reaching those difficult areas within the project area itself, whether that's through putting a notice up in the parish council box on the village green, explaining the project and saying if anybody's interested in volunteering, come and talk to us. Doing talks to people like the WI. I did talks to a local women's group in Dunsfold last year, just before Christmas, connecting with other wildlife groups within the area and using their links to engage with people, producing leaflets, giving general talks at parish council open days. So this is really high priority for us at the moment, is the engagement side, because one of the things we need to do with the project is we have to have a legacy left behind, and that's a stipulation of the lottery funding. So when the lottery funding ends at the end of December, if we can't get more funding, the project still carries on, but we're going to be very much reliant on our volunteers, our contacts, people like the local branch to help drive the project forward for the next 5-10 years. So one of the things we are doing is asking local landowners where we've donated seed or donated plants, is to, if they would be willing to sign up to a 10-year management agreement, an informal one with us. And so far, probably 99% of the landowners we've done work with have signed the agreement to say that they will maintain this for the next 10 years or allow volunteers to come in and do butterfly surveys, help with the habitat management, and plant some more plants after the project finishes, which is nice because that's a keystone. It'd be terrible if we spent 3 years putting a lot of effort and time into the project in the area and then nobody was available to carry it on once the project finishes or the funding finishes. And that leads me on to possibly my last slide. We need help. We need help with practical conservation days. We need help with getting more people involved in recording butterflies, whether it's informally through the big butterfly count, whether it's more formal training to walk transects, which is where Bill comes in, or time counts, especially in the areas where we're struggling at the moment. We need help with collecting seed, growing the plants on, and then going out and planting the plants. And again, this comes back to the legacy at the end of the day. You know, we need that engagement from the general public, from the landowners, from the local branch, from other wildlife groups, to ensure that legacy. You know, as I said, without the legacy, it's a shame. So we have to make sure we got people involved all the way through now. And if people aren't interested in conservation, in the practical side, for whatever reason, they can come and help do talks. They can man a stall at local fetes, which we've been doing, just to get the word out into those villages and into those areas that this is what the project is. You have this really rare butterfly that has been in trouble, that's now recovering to a certain extent on your doorstep, but we need help to do this as well. I think. Yeah, and just some of our partners in terms of funding. Like I say, without people like the Forestry Commission allowing us to go into the woods, do this project, do the practical work, do the surveying, you know, the project wouldn't have run from the day one. Same with the wildlife trusts, you know, and the lottery for actually funding the project as well. I think. Yeah, I think it's time for questions now. I think that's about 40 minutes.